Welcome to Positive Recovery MD. If you're listening, chances are you want to create happiness around you and thrive in your life. We're glad you're here and you've come to the right place. This podcast will inspire and motivate you to not merely survive your recovery journey, we'll give you the tools to build or strengthen your foundation to thrive and flourish in your life. Each week, we'll come together as a community to have authentic conversations around addiction, recovery, and what matters. Growth and progress, not perfection. All while developing positive habits for you to utilize in your life. To learn more, please visit positiverecoverymd.com to sign up to receive the daily positive interventions that we'll review, as well as gain access to exclusive Positive Recovery content available only to Positive Recovery MD listeners. All right, let's get started.
Hello and welcome to podcast number 7 for Positive Recovery MD. Dr. Jason Powers here, one of your co-hosts, along with Julie DeNova.
Hey there, guys. How are you?
I'm good. Our guest, John Shiflet. Awesome. I want to say Shifler only because I'm a big fan. Oh, God. American Pie movies.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I totally knew, and I was trying not to snicker. What excites me about, and that's a total college joke. And so having John here today as the program director for Cougars in Recovery from University of Houston is such an honor. Maybe a bigger honor for me because go Cougs, I have a Coug. I have a kid that's at the Bauer School of Business, and he's going into his junior year. And I'm also repping University of Houston through Coug's mom organization. So I'm really happy to be part of the university, just like you are in terms of all the great stuff that you have going on campus. And I was just really curious if you could tell us a little bit about who you are, how you wound up as the program director for Cougars in Recovery, and what it looks like now for folks since school is so different right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is John Shiflet. I'm a person living in long-term recovery. What that means for me is I haven't used any substances to change the way I feel since May 1st, 2007.
Whoop.
I graduated in 2012 from Texas Tech University, where I was a student at the Center for the Study of Addiction and Recovery, which is Collegiate Recovery Community at Texas Tech University. And they've been around for about 35 years, so they are a well-established collegiate recovery program, do a lot of research and understand recovery, addiction, and education, and how it's important to individuals' progress through their recovery. I'm a product of collegiate recovery, and so I had that opportunity. And when I graduated, I'm from Houston, and my family's here, and I wanted to come back and be close to my family. And I moved back, and I started to work at Memorial Hermann Prevention Recovery Center on the adolescent unit right out of college. It was my first job.
What did you study in college?
Community Family Addiction Services.
That's a degree?
Yes.
Is it a licensed, like professional degree or more like?
Well, it gives you all the coursework and hours to be eligible for licensure for LCDC.
LCDC. Okay. Got it.
Right. And I did that. I was a LCDC intern for a long time. I never actually became fully licensed just because I moved into the position I'm in now. I'll tell you, when I moved back to Houston and I was working at Memorial Hermann, some folks reached out to me and asked if I wanted to participate in a meeting about collegiate recovery with university administrators. And I absolutely jumped at the opportunity. And so I told them in that meeting that I wanted to do anything I could to help implement collegiate recovery at University of Houston.
So at this point, University of Houston did not have any formal recovery offerings besides maybe an AA meeting on campus, or they didn't even have that?
From my understanding, they did have a long-standing AA meeting on campus.
But nothing structured?
Nothing structured. And that meeting kind of bounced around each semester because the space was being used for something else, and it had low attendance because it bounced around so much. And
what do you think kind of brought the prioritization? Like what made it like front and present?
Well, I think University of Houston is a progressive university, and they wanted to be on the forefront of the field of collegiate recovery. And so it was important for them to, and they also knew that there was just like on any college campus, there's always an issue around alcohol and other drugs.
Right. My thought was there must have been maybe enough indications that they had a problem. Like not necessarily, isolated frat parties that may have gotten too much noise and attention, but maybe an on-campus DWI or drug, possession charges. There must have been something that came to a head, or was it really just a progressive ideology and then tapping you because you had been to Texas Tech?
Honestly, I'm not familiar with.
They didn't have a major problem that you knew of. They weren't saying, hey, we want you to come over here because we have an excess amount of substance abuse, or
not that I'm aware of. So
Okay.
here's the understanding that I have of why in the process of getting a collegiate recovery program at University of Houston. So first there was an individual by the name of, I won't say his full. His name is Alex, and he graduated from UT, and he was a member of their collegiate recovery community. And he's from Houston. He moved back to Houston, and he knew some folks over at U of H. And so he started to put the bug in their ear, and probably around 2011. And he had several meetings with Assistant Vice President for Health and Wellbeing within the Division of Student Affairs. Those meetings transpired into that meeting that I attended. And actually, I came in November of 2012. I was still a student at Texas Tech University in my senior year, my last semester. And the center asked me to come down and be a student representative for them at this meeting. That's how I got into that meeting. The assistant vice president had been talking to Alex for, a year or two about collegiate recovery and what that was and what it looked like. And he provided Mr. Floyd Robinson, at the time was the vice president for student affairs, with the information. And so Texas Tech also had a replication project and program, and it taught universities how to implement collegiate recovery on their campuses. And so Floyd had a look at that and decided that, this is something he really wanted to implement in his tenure while he was at the university in the health and well-being portfolio of the Division of Student Affairs. And so he brought in a bunch of folks, some administration higher up than him, and housing and counseling, and even a parent of a student who had a student come in to the university because they were in recovery, but there was no recovery program. And she was pretty passionate about implementation. So after that meeting is when I told him I want to be involved. If there's anything I can do as a volunteer, I'll do whatever it takes. And so
from volunteer to program director.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing. And what I know is that over the last 6 years, you've had well over 150 folks that have graduated from the university out of Cougs in recovery.
Beginning our 8th year of serving students in recovery at U of H. We're ending our 7th year.
Fantastic.
And so we opened the doors August of 2013, and I was a volunteer. Yeah, I would come over at night after my shift at Memorial Hermann and meet with 2 or 3 students on a Wednesday at like 7:00 at night. And we would just have a little discussion type process group. And that was the extent of Cougars in Recovery. And then, during that first semester fall, I applied for the position, which I didn't meet any of the qualifications. They wanted a master's level or above. And actually there was, I think, around 100 applicants, and they were all master's level or PhD candidates, but none of them had collegiate recovery experience. And I did. And I only had
and the passion to go along with it.
Yeah,
Right. Listen, if we were hiring somebody and there were applicants, one of whom volunteered, I don't care what qualifications or letters they have behind their name. I mean, Julie was applying for a nurse, and the minute I saw her, I thought, okay, I need to be reporting up to this person. So it really doesn't matter how, and she doesn't have a business degree and was yet running stuff. So it's like, it totally, I'm so glad people like you and a good friend of mine, Bill, who was the maintenance man at the summit and has worked his way up to be the photographer and videographer for all the major sport. And I did a whole blog post on him, I think in Huffington Post. So let me ask you this. Let's say I'm a student. I'm entering U of H for the first time. I'm in recovery. I may be used to like a peer group where I'm at that's robust, right? And I knock on your door. I'm like, hey, dude, I'm in recovery. I've got a few years. I'm scared as hell, right? How do you kind of usher somebody through?
A lot of times students I'll just give you an example. Like over the summer is when we have a lot of students transitioning either from high school or recovery high school, or even transferring from one university to another. We've already met with probably 20 students that are going to be incoming to our program in the fall. When they reach out to us before, we would, there's an application process. They would go on to our website, fill out the application. It has a series of questions. And then there's, at the end, there's a series of 6 prompt questions. And we ask them to write a short 2-page narrative to help us understand who they are and their commitment to their recovery and their commitment to their academics.
Was that application based on what Texas Tech did, or is it something you developed? I love it, by the way. I think when people write, you get to see who they are.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, it's similar to the process at Texas Tech University, but it's also different.
Sure.
Because, Texas Tech University, every one of the members of their community is given a scholarship because they have the funding to be able to do that. And we don't have the funding to be able to do that.
Not yet.
Not yet.
So what's your website that you were talking about where the application is?
Yeah.
Just so listeners can maybe jot it down.
www.uh.edu/CIR.
CIR stands for Cougs in Recovery.
Cougars in Recovery.
So wait, you said there's interviewed 20 people that are coming in. I noticed on your website, which I love, by the way, that you guys are doing everything online still, which is good. The quarantine's over, but there's, my understanding is at least in Harris County and much of Texas, there's going to be, for businesses that can't separate by 6 feet, there's going to be another mandatory mask wearing, which is great. Is University of Houston having live college enrollment, or do you not know? Have they said yes or no either way?
As of right now,
they are. Okay.
It's also going to be a hybrid type participation and engagement. For us, yes, let me back up.
Okay.
So the application, they complete it. We asked to do a face-to-face interview if possible, but if they live out of the city or out of the state, then we'll do a phone call. But we've never really turned anybody away, and it's easy because we don't provide scholarships. So
if they're coming and
they're in recovery, we want to provide a service to them. We want to be of service to them. One of the things that we do in that process is we try to understand where they're at in their education. So if it's a freshman and they are coming from, a regular high school and they've taken the SAT and the ACT, and we want to understand where they're at with that process. So where their high school GPA is, what those scores were because not all students are admitted. If they're below the university requirements, then they're most likely they're not going to be admitted. But if we know that they're coming and we can coach them through that. Okay. So when you're applying to the university, some of the things that you need to know are when you're applying, your first choice is, say, liberal arts or exploratory studies. You don't want to come in trying to go into the engineering college because most likely you're not going to be able to get in if you're below the requirement. And so it's an easier in just to get into the university. And then the other piece is if the student is rejected or denied admission, then there's an appeals process. And we are really involved in that appeals process.
Wow.
Where we can write letters of support for that individual, and they are provided a more holistic review of their application in the appeal. I have a relationship with the admissions office where, I get that package, the appeals process package from the student, and I email it to the director so they know, hey, this is one of our potential community members coming in. Can you please give it a really good second review and determine whether this student has the academic foundation to be successful at the university as well as in our program. And we're going to help them be academic success.
Yeah, that's what I hear. I'm moved because not only do you provide services for college students that are in recovery, but it sounds like you champion those that are not yet in college but want to be at the University of Houston. And with as competitive as it is to get in college, Lord knows. I mean, you know, the bribing scandal and then that whole industry where you get these private coaches, but you guys do this and you don't charge anything, and you're going to bat, or maybe you do, but I don't know. No, he says no.
No charges.
So this is a group of people that are ostracized and don't have a whole lot I'm in recovery too. I know. I mean, it's really tough. There's still a lot of shame and stigma, but for you to champion people that are trying to get in, that's amazing.
We under Texas Tech, they have a relationship with their admissions office and their university that if a student applies and they accept them into that program and they get that scholarship, admissions automatically lets them in regardless of what their academic foundation is. That was me. So I quit school after my third time in the ninth grade. I got my GED while I was incarcerated, and I had never taken any advanced English or algebra or writing or any of that. And so when I got there, when I got to Texas Tech, I didn't even know what a Word document was, much less font and 1-inch margins and intro paragraph and body. I didn't know any of that. And they helped me be successful.
Wow.
And so we understand in collegiate recovery, the field in general, that students are way more successful than what is on paper because of them being in their active addiction.
Right.
We know when the substance is removed and they are given the tools to cope with their substance use disorder, as well as the therapeutic approaches to dealing with their mental health, at the same time, they have the academic foundation to be successful at a higher level.
Right.
But because of it was untreated in high school, on paper, a 2.8 GPA in high school and a 20 on the
right.
SAT, that's not who they really are as a student.
So this is like affirmative action for addiction.
I guess. Yeah. And that goes for transfer students too. Majority of our students in our community are transfer students. So what happens is they go to UT or Baylor or A&M or Texas Tech or wherever, and they get there and they have all this freedom. And a lot of folks, young people acquire addiction in their first year or two of being in college, right?
Right. Between the ages of 18 and 25, it's like 1 in 6 have fulfill the diagnostic criteria for substance use disorder.
There you go. And so what happens is they fail out because
right.
Their priorities are what college culture always provides for them. And when they get there is like...
Yeah, it almost promotes it. So how challenging is that for you and your staff to kind of walk students through that? Like now he was knocking at your door and he was asking for help and getting in, and now he's in and he's part of it. And I love the expectations that you have outlined for your program agreement with the folks that enter in, having the sense of community, committing to civility, being courteous, that check-in whole process that you have. But once I'm in, how do you work with your students to help them kind of see like this can be fun to be a cougar in recovery, even though all of your other folks may be doing different things? And then one more last question is, do you actually have sober living on University of Houston campus?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes it easier.
So as far as I know, our program was the first program in the country to open its doors with recovery housing on campus.
Wow.
Nice.
As far as I know. So I'm going to claim it. When a student comes in, we sit down, we interview them, and then we share with them like what we do and how we do it and why we do it. And so like it has to be fun. We try to provide the complete college experience just like any other student would have on that campus minus drugs and alcohol. And so how we do that is, we do recovery tailgating. So before all the home football games, we cater in barbecue and we play games and we fellowship, and we'll be watching other games on the big, we have in our lounge, we have a projector with a big screen. And
where are you tailgating? In the parking lot?
No.
Why? Well, I was asking because just in case I could make a game, I would go.
We decided that that's not.
It's too much exposure.
Yeah.
High risk behavior.
There's a lot of.
I know.
I mean, they shut down a street in front of the stadium and like they have a party. And so for us, we have ours in the lounge.
Where's that located on campus?
So the lounge is located in the garden area of the Honors College of Moody Tower. So Moody Tower is a dormitory. Basically, it's the basement. But that's a really fancy name for calling it, right. The basement is the garden area of Honors College. And it's about a 1,500 square foot space. And it has, some desk and it has a coffee bar and a refrigerator and a microwave. And, the projector and the screen that comes down and we have some leather couches and a ping pong table, and we have computers with printers. And so it's just a safe space on campus for our community members to kind of congregate in, and some really random conversations happen there, some really deep, intimate conversations happen there, a lot of laughter, a lot of crying, but it's a safe space for our students to kind of gather in and just be open and not worry about the stigma that comes with mental health and substance use disorder. And that's where we hold all of our events. So we do recovery tailgating. We call it Cougs Giving. So for Thanksgiving, it's our version of Thanksgiving. We do a potluck. We do a gift exchange around Christmas. And then, we have a meeting in that space Monday through Friday. It's held from noon to 1 in that space. And it's an open meeting to the entire campus. That is the hub, right? We do other things to have fun too. So not only do we do recovery tailgating there, but before the game, we eat and fellowship and play games. And then we all walk over to the stadium together, and we sit in the student section where they sell alcohol.
Right.
And like everyone around us is like drinking. And here we are, there's a group of us, and we're supporting one another, and we're experiencing exactly what every other student is experiencing in the football game.
And you might be surrounded by it, but there's togetherness, right? You guys are doing it together.
Accountability.
And why insulate yourself or live in a bubble? I mean, go to the games. If recovery was about hiding, I mean, it would really not be that attractive, right?
Right. So another thing we do is our outdoor adventure learning experience, which is like that, honestly, I sometimes wonder if that's the only reason some of our students are in our program.
I saw that trip. I saw that. I wondered, is that just for the recovery students? Wow.
Yeah. So we do it twice a year, and we do it in the winter. And everybody in the community is invited, and it's all free. Everything that we do, the program pays for. That winter trip is everybody in the community is invited. And
where do you go?
During the winter, we don't travel outside of Texas. So we've been to Enchanted Rock and Pedernales Falls, Colorado Bend State Park, and just some parks up in the hill country. And it's really cold. I mean, really cold. But I'm going to tell you, there's something about
a bonfire.
Not only that, but the common struggle of the frigid. I mean, we were like, the first time we went, it was about 16 degrees. And we all struggled in that together. You know what I mean? And there's something about a bond that happens when you're all in a common
freezing
struggle.
your butt off.
Yeah.
Right. Because I bet that you're pretty close together.
Yeah. Those two experiences, we take a holistic approach to that, and also a therapeutic approach. And so it's not just we go out and we camp and have fun and do s'mores. It's like we wake up, we do a goals group in the morning, we set out for the day, we challenge ourselves, and at night we do a wrap-up group. Sometimes we'll even do, like, for instance, when it was really cold, we all cut a bunch of 2x4s up, and we brought, markers, and we all wrote on the wood, something that we wanted to let go of. And then we went around a circle and we shared that. And then we at one by one shared and put
Burned
it into the fire, So, but then we've climbed mountains before. In 2016, we were able to take a group of students to Tanzania, Africa, and climb Mount Kilimanjaro, 19,000 feet. And,
sign us up.
Yeah. So we've done.
So that's open to everybody?
That is not.
No.
You can go hang out at the
freezing
garden in the honors college.
So those students actually raised about 2/3 of the money to go on that trip. And then the program kind of paid for the rest of it. But, we've climbed mountains in Rocky Mountain National Park, and, climb mountains in Big Bend National Park. And so what we like to do is we like to make the connection between recovery and climbing mountains and how they're similar. It's very challenging. You're going to want to give up. You're going to fall down. You're going to make mistakes, but your peers are there to pick you up and push you and encourage you and support you. And then when you get to the top, it's just like this overwhelming sense of gratitude. And, it's kind of like that first year of recovery. When you reach year one, that's the part of the mountain. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then when we get up there, we'll have a gratitude meeting, and we'll just stop and take about an hour to just reflect on the experience of climbing the mountain and your recovery and what that's like and the gratitude around it. And when we come back down and we at night, we wrap it up and we talk about like what you experienced, what you noticed. Did some of your community members go way ahead and not think about the group and were being, somewhat selfish in their, their own journey up the mountain? How did that make you feel when they left you? And those that left, did you think about the ones you left? And we're just trying to make those connections about community and connection and togetherness and how to be a better individual in recovery.
Yeah, that sounds like it. So speaking of becoming a better individual, were you sober before you were incarcerated, or was it a result of that?
Yeah. So no, I was not sober.
How about during?
Incarceration?
Yes.
Well, of course. I mean, when you're locked up, you can't.
Well, I heard it's pretty easy to. I've never been incarcerated, but I heard.
Yeah. So there was one experience that I had where I was in Harris County Jail, and I went in and I was in a pod, and every day I filled out a slip to become a trustee, and finally I became a trustee, and so I went over to the trustees tank, and I was able to go out. There were some guys who were making phone calls outside and telling them where they were going to be at, because we knew where we were going, and they would drop stuff off and they would sneak it back in. And I'm not going to go into how they did that, and they were doing things. But
But you were sober.
I was.
And did you relapse when you got out, or was that sort of your?
Well, I've been incarcerated a lot of times. So a part of my process was reoccurrence of symptoms with my substance use disorder. And so what looked like for me was like, yes, 6 or 7 times I would go into treatment and come out, relapse, and then get incarcerated. And then
That was your cycle.
Yeah. 7. I went to 7 treatment facilities in Houston. One of them, it used to be Directions of Recovery.
Right.
That was the last place I was at, actually.
So things looked kind of familiar on here.
I think I remember meeting you at the chili cook-off.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I remember.
Yeah. So yeah, there was definitely this cycle of reoccurrence of symptoms for me over a 3-year period. It was like treatment, living in a halfway house, relapsing, failing drug test, turning myself in. I would go out for a couple of weeks and then I'd call my PO and say, "Hey, I'm back out. I need help again." And they would say, "Okay." And they would lock me back up. And
So what happened the last time? Did the judge say something to you, or sort of anything to wake you up, anything to kind of make sense? Or was it just the fact that, you know what, I needed to hear it 7 different ways from Sunday, and then it finally stuck?
I just think I think I finally, it was the gift of desperation.
Okay.
And I was just tired. And at that point I was 35 years old, and I hadn't seen my children in 2 or 3 years, and my family, they didn't want anything to do with me. As a matter of fact, they told me if I came back on the property, they would call the police and have me arrested. And I was alone. I was finally alone. Like they set really hard boundaries, and which was one of the best things that ever happened to me, is like,
Right.
so I was literally alone. I didn't have a job. I didn't have any money. Didn't have any clothes that were my own. All the clothes that I was wearing that were donated to me. And
So what's your life like now? May I ask, do you have a relationship with your family, your children?
Yeah, absolutely.
Tell me about it.
Well, it's completely different.
How old are your kids? Let's start there.
So I have one that's 20, and he
Wow.
he is at Texas Tech University in the Center for the Study of Addiction and Recovery
Wow.
as a recipient of the Recovery Scholarship, and he lives in recovery housing. And then I have a 17-year-old who will be a senior in high school this year, and I'm remarried. I met my wife while working at the ranch at Dovetree in Lubbock, Texas, as a treatment facility. She is a clinician. She's a marriage and family therapist. And I was a technician at the time, and I was 37 and she was 25. And, we just connected. So we've been together actually 10 years this month on June 20. So we've been together for 10 years, and we will be married in September for 8 years.
Wow, congrats.
Yeah. And I have a 3-year-old, 3.5-year-old
Boy or girl?
boy.
What's his name?
His name is Hayes.
All right, I like it.
Yeah.
And Hayes is awesome. He has a lot of energy too.
Yeah.
Is that from the Jimi Hendrix song?
No. There's just, I don't know if you ever heard of Hayes Carl. He's a Texas country singer.
No, but it is music related. How
Yeah, it
interesting.
is. It is. And we really like the name. It
It is cool.
I'm a Texan, And it sounded like a really strong Texan name. And so I'm a proud Texan. And so Hayes, we really liked Hayes. And so that's how he got his name. I graduated from Texas Tech University, but I also graduated from University of Houston with a master's in social work. So I have a master's degree, and that was a part of my recovery process, and considered a PhD maybe in 2022.
Dr. Shiflet, I think that would be a great idea.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
So you talked a little bit earlier about kind of likening the recovery to the experience of climbing a mountain, and how when you would get up to the top, you would create kind of a gratitude list, which for our positive intervention, it was around creating a gratitude list. So I don't know if you actually did the PI.
Oh, yeah.
I see some notes. I have my notes.
Yeah.
I actually had my alarm set on my phone. I did it today for today.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't mind sharing a little bit about that, were you mapping out your gratitude list per the positive intervention? Would you like to share?
Sure, I'll start. So, last week, what we do is we read the next week's positive intervention. And when I heard it, my instinct was, because I'm not like a savoring guy. And I wrote the book, so it's, it is important though to offer a lot of different avenues to thrive, right? And you never know which one's going to make the most sense. Not everyone is going to appeal to everybody, obviously, because of the kind of quarantine or at least limited business situations. I did mine last weekend, and I set my alarm, but I was inside all day. And what happened was like I would look around and I would find things that were dirty. So I cleaned. That would be like, but I did notice. Okay, back on. I did notice something I appreciated about our cat. Our family cat is an asshole. I mean, he's just as just a cat, but I noticed when he's looking at me, if I look at him, one of his ears will go whoop, like a sonar trying to focus on it, but. And anyways, that just made me laugh. So, it was humorous, but that was my experience.
So just to kind of recap real quick, it was, and probably the frou-frou part of it was because it was the hunt for the good, be a flower at the feet detective. And so basically we were looking to create or set a timer that each hour it would go off, and that we would find 3 things to be grateful for. All that cleaning you did, I bet your wife was grateful too.
Well, mostly it was in my man cave.
So do you mind sharing, John, what you kind of came up with?
Yeah, I did. I followed the instruction. That's another thing about me. I'm an instruction follower, so I like structure and guidance and instruction. But so for the first hour, it wasn't very specific, but as the day gone on, I got really specific, right? So the first hour was my beautiful wife and my beautiful son and our home and coffee. Coffee is important.
My today started off with good coffee also. Yeah. My 8 a.m. was good coffee.
Yeah. So as far as as a matter of fact, I had a Texas pecan blend of coffee this morning. It was really delicious. So
awesome.
And then the second hour was, I am working today. I'm not off. So while I'm sitting at the desk, the sunlight shining in through the window and onto my skin and into the room and lighting it up. And because I was working, I was like, man, there's a lot of people who are unemployed right now. So I'm really fortunate and really grateful to still have employment. And while I was working, I was like, this is my purpose. What I'm doing in my professional life is my purpose in life. And so I'm really grateful to understand what that purpose is. And so for the third hour, I really started to get specific. And one of the things was the ability to think critically and make my own decisions and have my own values and beliefs. Because before, in my addiction, I was not educated. I wasn't aware of my surroundings. I was so selfish and self-centered, like I couldn't see past the end of my nose, and now I have the ability to think critically and not believe everything I see, and really to question the things that I'm reading and seeing and my surroundings, and really trying to understand it in a way that was important to me. And then the motivation and drive to educate myself on the issues that are important to me. And then I was in a 2-hour staff directors meeting with the other directors of the health and well-being portfolio. And so I'm really grateful for my colleagues and their willingness to be supportive of one another, and just the vulnerability within that group that's one of the things I was grateful. And then in the fourth hour, grateful for this activity and the opportunity, because I don't do a lot of gratitude lists, especially like journal them.
Except when you're climbing mountains.
Yeah. Well, it's easy to do gratitude.
Absolutely.
In your head while you're climbing.
I know.
I'm grateful I'm at the top. And down is the only way to go now. So grateful for the activity and to really like be in the moment and be in the present. I think that's something that I've really worked on in the last 3 months during this quarantine, is not being in the future and really trying to focus on the day. And because, I'm really anxious. I have general anxiety disorder. And so if I'm too far in the future, then I'm
in fear.
I'm ruining the day, so, and the opportunity to collaborate with the podcast. So, and then I wrote, I'm grateful for our community members and the inspiration that they give me every day for me to continue to, be better for them.
Right.
Today is the day of celebration and solidarity with the Black community on Juneteenth. And so I'm really grateful for that. And one of the things that I've committed to today is learning more about Juneteenth and what it is and the significance of it and the impact it has on the African-American community. And then right now I'm really focused on being anti-racist and being an ally to the Black community. And then the last hour before I left over here, grateful for the support of my family and friends. And I'm grateful for my animals.
Do you want a cat?
I have a cat.
Do you want a cat?
Want a cat?
Oh, no. Mine.
He already described his cat.
That's why hopefully it's funny.
Yeah. And so it was really a good activity. And I shared it with my staff, and she was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to do it too.
Sweet.
Yeah. So now I'm going to have to buy the book.
No, you won't.
No, you won't.
Guess what?
Oh, sweet.
Oh, yeah.
You have your very own
You have your
copy.
very own. And you know it was kind of designed and written in the way that, those like meditations that we kind of start the day with. So there's like a quote, and then there's an activity every day that's an evidence-based, what we call in positive psychology, where I got my master's in positive psychology a few years ago. The positive intervention is the tool we use, kind of like a prescription or a procedure is the tool we use in medicine. So positive psychology uses positive interventions to improve one of the 5 areas of life where you find human happiness, is positivity, engagement, relationship, meaning, and achievement. So yeah, feel free to share it with your staff, man. Do it every day.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally will.
A lot of folks will also do a positive intervention at their morning meeting and kind of just kick off the day that way. So that might be something that you can do within your department.
Yeah.
Or during your weekly meetings from 12 to 1 in the garden at the Honors College.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that could be lots of fun. And so I am going to go ahead and read day 8. And I will say I'm just so grateful for you being here. That was one of my hourly ones, was I was talking about just having colleagues like John to be able to kind of run things by and know that when I have someone from University of Houston that I can reach out to you and send them to Cougars in Recovery. And in fact, we have from Positive Recovery Centers.
Thank you.
Day 8 is what you get by achieving your goals is not as important as what you become by achieving your goals. That's a Henry David Thoreau quote. So we always start out with a quote. And then we go into kind of the explanation, which is it's time to revisit the goals that we did on day 1. So the very first one within our book was about setting goals. Have you done 3 things in the last 7 days to help fulfill one of your goals? Compare your mission statement to your goals and behaviors. Are these consistent with each other? Are you doing what you reasonably can to achieve your goals, develop your character strengths, and forge your destiny? So the PI, or positive intervention, that's associated with that we'll be looking at next week is, in addition to reviewing and possibly rewriting your goals, your task today is to help someone else reach one of his or her goals. Simply choose someone and ask that person if there's anything you can do in 5 minutes or less to help him or her achieve something today. It could be a goal or even a chore. The giving of your time does not have to be a big, huge, heroic inconvenience, but try to give someone at least 5 minutes. Journal about the assignment. What did you do today for someone else and how did it feel? Reflect on what you have become by accomplishing past goals. Is what you have become more valuable to you than what you got? That's really good. I can't wait to do this one. And any last words, John, about UH?
Go Cougs.
That's right. Go
All
Cougs.
right.
Well, thanks.
Thanks very much.
Thanks again. And this is Powers and Denofa signing off.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Positive Recovery MD. Don't forget to visit positiverecoverymd.com to sign up to get your daily positive intervention sent straight to your inbox. Be sure to subscribe to Positive Recovery MD on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to your podcasts to receive an automatic download when a new episode drops. And as always, if you or someone you know needs help, visit positiverecovery.com or call 877-4SOBRIETY, which is 877-476-2743. We are here to help.